Jesus in Luke 4, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read and was teaching them on the Sabbath. Jesus' custom was to keep the Sabbath all through his life. He did that. Jesus was never breaking the Sabbath. He did have some conflict with the Jews on how to keep it based on their traditions or God's word, and he always went with God's word. Paul comes on the scene, and he follows the example of Jesus with Jews and Gentiles in worshiping on the biblical seventh-day Sabbath. And if Jesus did it, Paul did it, early church did it, seems like we should too. Hebrews says this, "And let us consider one another in order to stir up love and good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some, but exhorting one another, and so much more as you see the day approaching." Folks, it's not my intention to make you mad at me, but it is my intention to stir up love and good works, to challenge you to go to God's word. So that's what you need to do now. But make sure that you don't give up gathering together. You need to do it. I would suggest you do it God's way, not humans' way. Goes on to say this in Hebrews, "For if we sin willfully after we've received the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice for sins, but a certain fearful expectation of judgment and fiery indignation, which will devour the adversaries." Make sure you're following what you know, because the good news is God knows your heart, but the bad news, if you're rebelling, God knows your heart. Revelation, "And I heard another voice from heaven saying, 'Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, and lest you receive of her plagues. For her sins have reached to heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities.'" Out of papal-led Christianity, God calls the people to turn away from the sins of the Catholic system, turn away from the false teachings of the Catholic system, and go back to the Bible and Jesus. And that's what I encourage each and every one of you to be doing. You keep the Sabbath? Yeah, you can get caught in the middle. So was Jesus caught in the middle, folks. You can be like Jesus. How about that? Not so bad. The king of the south's going to go down. The king of the north is then going to attack the Sabbath keepers, and then the king of the north goes down, and the only people left are those trusting in Jesus and the Bible. That's not such a bad ending, is it? We're going to see even more of that in our next presentation. By the way, if you're irritated with me on this one, you're going to love the next one. Because it's not about the Sabbath, and it's about how God delivers his people. When Michael stands up, 12:1, it's the deliverance of God's people, and the deliverance from false teachings continues. But this is how God delivers his people at the end, and it's fantastic.